Good morning, students. So our today's lesson is lesson 1.5, Mrs. Addis. Mrs. Addis is a story of a noble mother. Why she is called the noble mother, you will understand after listening this story and after reading this story in your textbook. Mrs. Addis, I'm starting from page number 44. The writer of this story is Sheila K. Smith. She was an English novelist and poet, and many of her novels were set in the borderlands of Sussex. Borderland means outer of the main city, and Kent in the English regional tradition. Her book, The End of the House of Allard, became a bestseller. She was a very well-known writer of her times. Now we come to the story of Mrs. Addis. Mrs. Addis is a story about a peasant woman, that is a farmer, who finds a desperate young man at her doorstep, pleading of her to give him protection from the police or the people who were about to catch him. He had been poaching on the nearby estate and in panic had killed one of the keepers. Gamekeepers here means the keepers of the castle or the keepers of the particular area. In this story, Sheila Smith actually explains about the courage, about the situation, about the condition of a mother whose son has been killed by his own best friend. How is she handling that particular situation? That is explained in this story. So this is a story filled with we can say tragedy, emotions, climax also. So there are mixed feelings in this story. So let's begin. The main characters of the story are Mrs. Addis, the main lady, Tom, son of Mrs. Addis, Peter Crouch, the culprit of the story or the villain we can say of this story, who is the best friend of Tom. Whittler, the keeper, who comes to Mrs. Addis with the information. And then two minor characters are also there, that is Mrs. Gain and the Bourbons. The Bourbons here it is a surname for the people whose castle were guarded by the keepers. Actually, Tom and Peter Crouch, they were schoolmates, but they had very different characters and careers by nature, by behavior, by manners. In every way, they were absolutely different, and they have chosen different careers also. Tom was a keeper, and Peter Crouch was a criminal. He was, we can say, a robber or like he was indulged in bad works only, but still they had a very good friendship. They were best friends to each other. So Mrs. Addis, she lived in her cottage, which was just within that jungle area, within that forest area. Now the setup of the story is set in the northeast Sussex. A great tongue of land runs into Kent. So the author has taken a location for the story is Sussex, which is a country in south of England. In the northeast Sussex, the story has been put up there only. So she says that in northeast Sussex, a great tongue of land runs into Kent. Kent is also a city, we can say, a city of that particular area. So, great tongue of land means a long stretch of land branching out from the main road, right? So, a great stretch of land there. Whenever we are going on a main road, we can also see that there is a great long stretch of land which is for which we got branch from the main road. So, so it is a land of woods. the old hammer of the Sussex iron industry, and among the stretch of land branching woods gleam the hammer ponds. That is, so this stretch of land, this is actually a jungle area. Woods means forest, jungle. So this is a jungle area, and this is also called as the old hammer of Sussex. Why it is called as old hammer? Old hammer because in those times there were iron industries near that jungle area, and there were water ponds, and the iron industries, they used wood from this forest, and they used water from the pond available there only to make their tools or to run their iron industry. For that reason the name became old hammer woods, or we can say hammer ponds, because they used to make iron hammers using water and wood from that forest area. Owing to the thickness of the woods, the road that passes Mrs. Addis' cottage is dark long before the fields beyond. That is, Mrs. Addis' cottage was, the way to Mrs. Addis' cottage was through these thick forest. The forests were quite thick, they were quite darker, and there was the way to Mrs. Addis' house was through these thick forest only. And that particular night, so the story actually begins from here only, because it was a dark night, and that night there was no twilight and no moon, only a few pricks of fire in the black sky above the trees. But what the darkness hid, the silence revealed. Actually, the night was absolutely dark. There was no moon, there was no light. Only a few stars were there. Prick of fire. Now you see the vocabulary, the imagination of the poet, of the writer. It is wonderful actually. She says pricks of fire. Only a small light from the stars was there. Only stars were shining above those trees. But although it was too much darkness, everything was silence, but still the darkness, the crime that the darkness was hiding, the silence was revealing. There was something wrong had happened that night. In the absolute stillness of the night, while windless and clear, every sound was distinct and intensified. The distant bark of a dog at Dalmanden sounded close at hand, and the man who walked on the road could hear the echo of his own footsteps following him like a knell. So here the writer says the night was so much still, it was silent, it was motionless, there was no wind, that even a minor sound was so much distinct, it was so clear, it was so intensified that every movement could be noticed. The silence was so much intense that even a dog is barking at a long distance. Close at hand means even it is barking at a long distance, it looked like it is barking here only. Dalmanden, a village near that forest. If a dog is barking in Dalmanden, his voice is clearly heard in that jungle. It was so much silent. So, if a person is walking over there, the man who was actually walking from that jungle, he could hear the sound of his own footsteps. You might have also noticed, many times we notice whenever we are walking we are walking alone on a silent road or at some other silent place, we are able to hear our own footsteps, and they become very scary for us. So same feeling was there with that person. Now every now and then he made an effort to go more quietly, but the roadside was a mass of thorns, and their crackling and rustling were nearly as loud as the thud of his feet on the road. Besides, they made him go slowly, and he had no time for that. Now the situation is that person had to go very fast. He wanted to move very quickly, but whenever he used to make an effort to go quick, he had to go more and more slow. He did not want to make any noise. He did not want that anybody notice him. So he was trying to go quietly, but there were many thorns, there were many dry twigs, we can say, dry woods were there. So whenever he used to put a step, there was crackling or rustling sound of these thorns or dried leaves over there. So he wanted to hide the sound of his footsteps, but still he was not able to. So, besides, they made him go slowly. He wanted to go fast, but because of these sounds, he was bound to move slow. Now, then, after passing through the jungle, he came near to Mrs. Addis's cottage. There he paused a moment because he was confused what to do now. Only a small patch of grass lay between it and the road, and he looked in at the lighted, uncurtained window. Now he was standing over there. He could see the kitchen window of Mrs. Addis. It was very much clearly visible to him. He could see her stooping over the fire, taking some pot or kettle off it. Like he saw her working on the gas stove. Either she was picking up or just taking off the pot or a kettle. He hesitated and seemed to wonder. He was a big, heavy working man, not successful, judging by the poverty of his appearance. Although he was very big, heavy, he was a healthy man, but he was unsuccessful because of his wrong works only, and it could be judged by his poor appearance only, poverty of appearance full of poverty. He hesitated because he knew that because of his wrong deeds, Mrs. Addis didn't like him, but he hesitated and seemed to wonder what should he do now. For a moment he thought, and then he made as if he would open the window. Then he changed his mind and went to the door. Instead, he did not knock but walked straight in. So first he thought that he should just knock at the window, or he should open the window and speak to Mrs. Addis. But then he changed his mind. He didn't knock, he didn't open the window, he directly went inside the kitchen door. Now, obviously, if somebody is coming without knocking and you're busy with your work, obviously you will be scared. And now the woman at fire turned quietly round. What, you Peter Crouch? She said. I didn't hear you knock. She was a bit angry. I didn't knock, ma'am. I didn't want anybody to hear. So his reply was, because I didn't want that anybody should hear me here, so I did knock and came in straight. How's that? So now she was surprised. Why you did this? I'm in trouble. His hands were shaking a little. What have you done? Because she knew he was not a good person. So what have you done? The reply was, I shot a man, Mrs. Addis. And she was shocked. You? Yes, I shot him. You killed him. I don't know. So still he was not knowing that whether the person is killed or not. Actually, he had shot a person in the jungle. For a moment there was silence in the small stuffy kitchen. Then the kettle boiled over and Mrs. Addis mechanically put it at the side of the fire. She was now here is a description of Mrs. Addis, which could be a question in your exam also. Describe Mrs. Addis or character sketch of Mrs. Addis. She was a small, thin woman with a brown, hard face on which the skin had dried in innumerable small hair-like wrinkles. So here we can judge that she was a lady between 45 to 50 years of age. She was small. She was not too tall. She was probably not more than 42. But life treats some women hard in the agricultural districts of Sussex, and Mrs. Addis' life had been harder than most. Although she was only 42, 43 years old, but still there were many wrinkles on her face. The face was quite tired type, but and this is the reason why she was looking so old at the age of 42, only because in those times in the district of Sussex, these peasant ladies, they had to face a lot of troubles when they are single, when they are alone. So there are many life threatening incidents in their lives, so they don't have time to look after themselves only. So same thing was happening with Mrs. Addis also. She had a hardest life, we can say. Now she asked him, "What do you want me to do for you, Peter Crouch?" She said, little sourly. Obviously, if a person who has killed somebody asks you a favor or if he comes to you, we will be naturally a bit angry with him. So she said sourly, "So what do you want me to do? Let me stay here a bit. Is there nowhere you can put me till they have gone? So just allow me to be here for some time until they have gone." Who's they? The keepers. Now the keepers here means the guards who were guarding the who were there in the castle, who used to look after the castle, and they were guards over there. "Oh, you have had a call with the keepers, have you?" "Yes, I was down by Cinderwood seeing if I could pick up anything and the keepers found me." So he explained that he had went to Cinderwood name of the forest. "Yes, I went there because he wanted to pick something, like something might be he went there to find some animal for his food or for anything. So he might have went there to steal the woods. So what could be the reason? But keepers found him. They now they got that somebody is there to steal something. There was 4 to 1, so I used my gun." So he told the ratio that they were four, the keepers were four, and I was alone. So I had to use my gun. Then I ran for it. They're after me. They can't be far off. So he said, "I was bound to use the gun because I had no choice, because they were four. So obviously they could have caught me. So I had to shot my gun and then I ran. And now they are looking for me. They are after me, and they might be there nearby here only." So Mrs. Addis said she did not speak for a moment because now she was shocked actually. Crouch looked at her beseechingly. Beseechingly here means appealingly. That is, he was expecting some answer from her side because he was already in tension. So he just wanted to know whether she would allow him to stay over here, there or not. He would be caught. He would be caught by the keepers. So he was still in fear. So appealingly, he wanted to have her reply. "You might do it for Tom's sake," he said. When he saw that she is not replying, so he used his friend Tom's name, that "You might do it for Tom's sake because I am Tom's friend. So for him only you just help me," because Tom was Mrs. Addis' son and Peter Crouch was friend of Tom. "You haven't been an over good friend to Tom," snapped Mrs. Addis. So Mrs. Addis, in anger, she replied, "You have never been a good friend to my Tom. So because you're always a bad person. But Tom's have been a very good friend to me. He would want you to stay by me tonight." But he replies that, "Okay, fine. I am not good to Tom, but Tom is very good to me. He is a good friend of mine. So please, I request you, please allow me to stay here for tonight only. Tomorrow I'll go back." Well, I won't say he wouldn't, for Tom always thought better of you than you deserved. Maybe you can stay till he comes home tonight, then we can hear what he says about it. So now she says that, "Okay, fine. Well, I don't know whether he would allow you to stay here or not because Tom has always thought of your betterment only than you deserved. So, as a person, the personality you are having, my son had always thought good for you. So, okay, fine. You stay here till he comes back from his work, and then let's see what he says. If he allows you, you stay here. Otherwise, you have to go. He'll be back up at work for an hour yet, and the coast will be clear by then. I can get away out of the country." "Where will you go?" "I don't know. There is time to think of that." "Well, You can think of it in here, she said dryly, opening a door which led from kitchen into the small shed at the back of the cottage. They'll never guess you're there, especially if I tell them I haven't seen you tonight. You're a good woman, Mrs. Addis. I know I'm not worth your standing by me, but maybe I would have been different if I had a mother like Tom's. So here he gave her some emotional words, right? So now she said, he'll be back up at work for an hour yet. So within an hour he'll be coming back from the work. This Peter Crouch said these words, and at the coast, and that time when Tom is here, the coast will also be clear by the late night. So then I can get out of this country, so I can run from here. Now she asked him, where will you go? So he had no idea where will he go, because he had no place to go. So he said that, okay, fine, I have a time to think, I can think over that. But because Mrs. Addis didn't like him, she did not want to see him there standing. So she said, okay, fine, better you come and think over there. She opened a door from the kitchen to shed. It was a shed where some useless things were kept over. It was dirty also. She said, go back in that, just go to that shed only, because the one thing there in her mind was that the keepers will not have an idea that Peter Crouch is there only. So she wanted to hide him actually. So they will never guess that you are here only. So he thanked her. He said, you are a good woman. So I know you don't want to stand by me, but still I would have been a different person. I could have been a good person if I had a mother like Tom's mother. Like if I would have a mother like you. Now she did not speak, but shut the door, and he was in darkness, save for a small ray of light that came through one of the cracks. By this light, he could see her moving uh, to here and there, to and fro, and preparing for Tom's supper. Now, but she did not reply him because she actually did not like him. So she went away and started doing her work in the kitchen. He could see from a little hole from a little hole from that wall, and he could see her preparing dinner for her son Tom. Seeing her, he had just in another hour, Tom would be home from Iron Latch Farm where he worked every day. Peter Crouch trusted Tom to help him, for they had been friends when they went together to national school at Limberhurst, and since then the friendship had not been broken by their very different characters and careers. So they have been friends since long, but although their characters are different, also even their careers are different, so, but still they have been very good friends. Now, after seeing Mrs. Addis cooking food for Tom, Peter Crouch huddled down upon the sack that shrink filled one corner of the shed. A delicious smell of cooking began to come through from the kitchen, and he hoped Mrs. Addis would not deny him a share of the supper when Tom came home, for he was very hungry and he had a long way to go. Shall I get food? So he had a thought. After Tom comes back, will Mrs. Addis call me for the food, because I'm also hungry. I'm tired also, and he had to go a long way. Actually, he did not know where he will go. He had fallen into a kind of helpless doze, that is, he had fallen to sleep, when he was roused by the sound of footsteps on the road. For a moment, his poor heart nearly choked him with its beating. So now he was scared. There were some footsteps on the road. He thought that keepers have come there. They were the keepers. They had guessed where he was. So these all are thoughts in the mind of Peter Crouch. He thought that they have guessed that I am here only with Mrs. Addis, his old friend's mother. He had been a fool to come to the cottage. Nearly losing his self-control, he shrank into the corner, shivering, half sobbing, like he was near to cry, near to weep that now he is caught, they will catch him and put him in the jail. but the footsteps went by. The next minute, Mrs. Addis stuck her head into the shed. So now they went away. So after they went away, Mrs. Addis just opened the door and stuck her head into the shed and told him that that was the keepers, she said shortly. She only in a whispering sound, she informed him that they were keepers. I saw them go by, they had lanterns. Maybe it would be better if you slipped out now and went towards Cansiran. Cansiran is the name of a station actually. You had missed them that way and get over to Kent. That there's a London train that comes from Tunbridge Wells at 10 to 9. So now she saw that keepers had come over there also. They might come to her cottage also. So she said they were keepers, but they have gone. They had lanterns in their hands, so you will be caught if you go out later. I think you should leave now only and go towards Cansiran station. From there, you could get a train for London at 10 tonight. So you go by that train. It would be better for you. That would be a fine thing for me, ma'am, but I haven't the price of ticket on me. She went to one of the kitchen drawers. Here's 7 shillings. It'll be your fare to London and a bit over. For a moment he did not speak, and then he said, I don't know how to thank you, ma'am. Oh, you needn't thank me. I'm doing it for Tom. I hope you won't get into trouble because of this. Peter said, there isn't much fear. No one's ever likely to know you have been in this cottage. That's why I would sooner you went before Tom came back, or maybe he would bring a friend with him and that will make a trouble. So he said, okay, fine, ma'am. It would be fine if I go now only, but I have no money. So she gave him 7 shillings from the drawer and tell him that this is more than your fare to London. So now you can leave. So he did not speak, but thanked her, and she said that I am doing everything for my son Tom only. I hope so. Then he said, I hope because of this you will not be in trouble. So she said, there will be no trouble now because they will never judge that you had come here only. But I want that you move before Tom came back, because if he brings one of his friend with him, then it will be a trouble that then you won't be able to go out from here. She opened the door for him, but on the threshold they both stood still, for again footsteps could be heard approaching, this time from the far south. Maybe it's Tom, said Mrs. Addis. There's more than one man there, and I can hear voices. You would better go back, she said shortly. Wait till they have passed away. With an unwilling shrug, he went back into the little dusty shed which he had come to hate, and she locked the door up again. So now she opened the door because he was about to leave, but just as they were on the border of the door, they again heard some footsteps, but this time they were coming from different direction, from south direction. So she thought it might be Tom. So let me see uh, whether he is Tom or not. But Peter said that, ma'am, the footsteps are more than one man. So maybe many people are coming. So she said, okay, fine, go back to the shed only and wait there only. But with unwilling shrug means like unwillingly, just raising his shoulders like up. Okay, fine, but he was not willing, but because the shed was so dirty, and she locked him there only. The footsteps drew nearer. They came slowly and heavily this time. For a moment he thought they would pass also, but their momentary dulling was only the crossing of the strip of grass outside the door. The next minute there was a knock. It was not Tom then. So now you can imagine the situation of his mind, his brain, what was going into his body. Now the footsteps came nearer. So he thought that they would also pass, but with the sound of these footsteps, they crossed through the grass up to the door and knocked. Trembling with anxiety and curiosity, Peter Crouch put his eyes to one of the numerous cracks into the door and looked through into the kitchen. He saw Mrs. Addis go to the cottage door, but before she could open it, a man came in quickly and she shut it behind him. So he saw that now he was trembling. Obviously, he was trembling with fear and he was curious why that person has come, who has come, because he was scared. So he just peeped through the crack in the door and looked into the kitchen. He saw this Mrs. Addis was just about to go to open the door, but the man outside he came inside himself. Crouch recognized Whittler, one of the keepers of Scotney Castle, and he felt his hands and feet grow a little cold. They knew where he was then. They had followed him. They had guessed that he had taken refuge with Mrs. Addis. It was all up. Now his situation was, now he saw it was Wedler, the keeper of Scotney Castle. So now he was shivering. His body was all cold. Now he got to know that, oh my God, they knew I am here only. They had guessed that I took refuge with Mrs. Addis. Now they will catch me and they will hang me. He was not really hidden. There was no place for him to hide. Directly they opened the inner door, they would see me. Why couldn't he think of things better? Why wasn't he cleverer at looking after himself like other men? His legs suddenly refused to support him, and he sat down on the piles of sack. So now he was all just thinking all these things. He would have gone somewhere else. Why had he come here? Why hadn't he behaved cleverly like other people? Now his body was motionless. His body was without any senses. His legs were not supporting him. So he just sit down on the piles of sacks. He was just thinking what to do now. I am caught now. The man in the kitchen seemed to have some difficulty in saying what he wanted to Mrs. Addis. He stood before her silently, twisting his cap. Now the man who came inside, he wanted to give some information to Mrs. Addis, but he was not able to. He was just thinking, what should he do now? How he should tell her the news. So he was standing there just twisting his cap. Well, what is it? She asked. I want to speak to you, ma'am. So she asked only. So what? Why have you come? What do you want to tell me? Peter Crouch listened, straining his ears, for his thudding heart nearly drowned the voices in the next room. Oh no, he was sure she would not give him away. If only for Tom's sake. She was a good sort, Mrs. Addis. Well, she said sharply, as the man remained tongue-tied, I have brought you bad news, ma'am. Peter Crouch listened. Now Peter just listened these words, what the Riddler was saying. And the sound of his heart. You also know when you are scared, when you have done something wrong, how our heart starts beating. So he could hear the voice of his beating heart also. Oh no, he was sure that she will not give him, she will not hand him over to the keeper only for the Tom's sake, but still he was very much scared. So now again the man was still standing silently, tongue tied means silently. So she said, well, what do you want to say? Then he said, I have a bad news for you, ma'am. Her expression changed. But obviously, a mother and son was there when he says, I have a bad news for you. So she said, is it Tom? What happened to him? He's outside, said the keeper. He said, he is outside, ma'am. What do you mean? Said Mrs. Addis, and she moved the door. Don't, ma'am, not till I've told you. Told me what? Oh, be quick, man, for Mercy's sake, and she shouted. So she was just about to open the door, but man said, ma'am, please don't open the door. First listen to me, what I'm willing to tell you. Now she was so much scared. So he told her, we were walking there, we heard a noise, and that man, we scared him, but he shot at us. He used his gun there. Tom, said Mrs. Addis. Now Mrs. Addis got it that the bullet that was shot to Tom only. The keeper had forgotten his guard, and before he could prevent her, she had flung open the door. The man outside had evidently been waiting for the signal, and they came in carrying something which they put down in the middle of the kitchen floor. Is he dead? Asked Mrs. Addis without tears. The man nodded. They could not speak anything. So just before the guard could he could give the signals to the people waiting outside, Mrs. Addis just flung open the door, and the people waiting outside, just they were waiting for the signal from the keeper. So she asked them, "Is he dead?" So he was dead. In the shed, Peter Crouch had ceased to sweat and tremble. Strength had come with despair, for he knew he must despair now. Besides, he no longer wanted to escape from this thing that he had done. So now he was all over, like nothing was left for him. So he just wanted that he also did not want to live now. He wanted to end his life. Oh, Tom. And I was thinking it was one of the keepers. Oh, Tom. And it was you that got it for me. I don't want to live. So now he was lamenting over whatever he did. And yet, now he was thinking, and yet life was sweet, for there was a woman at Ticehurst, a woman as faithful to him as Tom, who would go with him to the world's end even now. So now he started thinking of other people. He had a lady love in his life. There was a girl in his life. She was as honest towards him as Tom. She was as caring toward Peter as Tom. So she said, "Still, I had a life. So I have a woman who is faithful to me, and she can go to any place with me. She is always with me. I have lost her also now." But he must not think of her now. He had no right. He must pay with his life for what he had done. Mrs. Addis was sitting in the old basket armchair by the fire now because there was no life in her legs. She was not able to move. One of the men had helped her into it. "We'll go round to Iron Latch Cottage and ask Mrs. Gain to come down to you. There is a terrible thing to have come to you, and as for the man who did it, we have a middle good guess who he is, and he shall hang." So they had that idea that who was that person, and they knew that it was Peter Crouch only. So he said, "We will go and find him, and I ask Mrs. Gain to come to you because you are alone now. We didn't see his face, but we have got his gun. He threw it into the bush when he bolted, and I swear that gun belongs to Peter Crouch, who's been up to no good since the day he was sacked for stealing corn." So he was also always, he was already stealing one thing or other, but he couldn't have known it was Tom when he did it. He had Tom always being better friends than he deserved. So Widler was speaking. He didn't know that he has killed Tom, but they were better friends. Now Peter Crouch was standing upright now, looking through the crack of the door. He saw Mrs. Addis struggle to her feet and stand by the table, looking down on the dead man's face. He saw her put her hand into her apron pocket, where she had thrust the key of the shed. "The Boormans have gone after Crouch," said Widler, nervously breaking the silence. And now everything was silent there. No one was speaking anything. So now Widler said, "Boormans have also gone after Crouch. They are also looking for him. They had thought he had broken the wood iron latchway. There's no chance of his having been by here. You haven't seen him tonight, ma'am." There was a pause. So, but still they know that no one has come over there. But he asked him, "Have you seen him tonight?" So, firstly she was silent and then said, "No, I have not seen him, not since Tuesday." She took her hand out of the apron's pocket, because first she was willing to hand Peter Crouch to Widler, but when he asked him, She just take out her hand from the apron pocket. Well, we'll be catching around and fetch Mrs. Gain. Will you carry him in the will you carry him in there first? And she pointed to the bedroom door. She requested the people to carry the body of her dead son into the bedroom. The men picked up the stretcher and carried it to the next room. Then silently each wrung the mother by the hand and went away. Wrung the hand means consoled her, just held her hand for some time and pressed it. She waited until they had shut the door, then she came towards the shed. Crouch once more fell a shivering. He couldn't bear it. No, he had rather be hanged than face Mrs. Addis. He heard the key turn in the lock and he nearly screamed. Like he was so scared that he wanted to shout, he wanted to scream and cry. He did not want to face Mrs. Addis. Rather than he was willing to be hanged rather than face Mrs. Addis, because you can imagine the situation of that time. But she did not come in. She merely unlocked the door, then crossed the kitchen with a heavy dragging footstep and shut herself in the room where Tom was. Peter Crouch knew what he must do, the only thing she wanted him to do, the only thing he could possibly do, and opened the door and silently went out. So, this was the story, an emotional, a tragical story. A mother helped the boy who was actually murderer of her only son. So here I stop. Thank you.